Forget what your local lefty's been telling you. There is no difference between Donald Trump having classified documents and Joe Biden having classified documents. And if you're going to charge one, you have to charge the other. And if that's the case, both will end up going to jail, which is why neither will end up going to jail. For the fourth time, that's right, the fourth time in 1 week, we have learnt that as late as today, they are still finding documents in Biden's house.
And today, a new disclosure. More classified papers were discovered at Mr. Biden's Delaware home from his time as vice president. So far, we know of roughly 20 classified records that have been uncovered in 2 locations. This week's revelations, first reported by CBS News, come as the president approaches a difficult re-election bid and as the White House struggles to contain the damage.
Now, apart from having the documents being illegal, the reason that Biden is particularly in trouble is because remember when this photo came out of Mar-a-Lago and this was the response of an indignant Joe Biden.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
But just about that photo, you know that was staged, right? The FBI did not walk into a closet and see documents on the floor like that. Instead, according to the New York Times and plenty of other reporting that was around at the time, the FBI deliberately placed them in that famous configuration, and because the folders were arrayed by agents at Mar-a-Lago after being removed from what the filing indicated was Mr. Trump's office, they were not discovered scattered on the floor according to 2 federal law enforcement officials. So why was that photo the photo that we saw? Because it's easier to say this bloke was being irresponsible with documents, despite the fact that, of course, Trump had it in an office that's presumably had plenty of private security, because last time I checked, you can't just walk into Mar-a-Lago. But the possession of the documents is the issue here. You see, there have been plenty of cases in the United States where just one piece of paper has been enough for somebody to go to court and maybe even jail. Now, there are famous examples, including way back when, a bloke called Sandy Berger, who was an official in the Clinton administration. Well, he literally shoved them down his pants, hid them under his boat, but he got fined just $50,000. Because, of course, these documents are not all the same. The ones that have the nuclear codes, well, that's about as big as it gets. But those aren't in discussion here, either at Biden's house or at Trump's, regardless of what you heard at the start. The whole nuclear thing, not true. And intelligence is a little bit like milk. It has a use-by date. Put simply, with every week and every month that passes, it's old news. The only thing that's mildly interesting is whether or not it exposes how they pull apart the way they put together their information. And while not as bad as Sandy Berger, well, at least there wasn't a boat involved, the guy who's better than anyone else at holding on to classified documents was holding on to classified documents, not just in his office with an awful lot of Chinese money involved in its ongoing operations, not just inside his house, where Hunter, of course, comes and goes, but most famously, next to his Corvette.
Classified material next to your Corvette? What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but at any rate,
was in a locked garage?
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously.
But don't worry, Joe Biden. Apparently, according to this Democrat congressman, it all could be a stick-up job.
That's what I call for, is for everything to be investigated, but I'm suspicious of the timing of it. I'm also aware of the fact that things can be planted on people. Places and things can be planted, things can be planted in places and then discovered conveniently. that may be what has occurred here. I'm not ruling that out.
Now, you know Biden is in some sort of trouble here. Again, he won't go to jail. Trump won't go to jail. The difference between their cases, of course, is that Trump had a longer fight about his documents versus Biden, and allegedly as soon as they were found, they were handed over. Of course, there was many days between when they were found, when they were handed over, and when we were told.
The White House says it is committed to transparency, but the first batch of documents was discovered on November 2nd, just days before the midterm elections, and the public didn't learn of it until this week, and only after reporters started asking questions. When it was Trump, Biden called it totally irresponsible.
And Mr. President, while 2023 isn't off to the greatest of starts, it's okay. You've still got The View.
That there are differences in what happened.
Yes, but the optics are not good.
Well, we all know that Trump is a liar and a thief. You know? We know that. So it's not that big a jump to say that he obstructed and he lied. We don't think that Biden is a liar and a thief, so we give him the benefit of the doubt.